Welcome to Venator Chronicles Podcast. I'm Ethan Taylor.
And I'm Dustin Jelly.
Our hope is to inspire new and old hunters alike.
We hope you can join us on this journey of lessons that we have, are, and will learn through the world of hunting.
Let's remove the fourth wall, as they say. Okay, we were just talking about. Hold on, we were just talking about how our podcasts work out to be like since they come out like every 2 weeks or so, and how we are sitting here, and the first one's usually like more serious.
Are we going to be vulnerable right now?
It's like more serious and whatever, and then
Summer.
as the night goes on and it's later, it just gets goofy. So then it works out to where it's like there's a serious episode, and then 2 weeks
not
later
so
it's
serious.
super goofy,
Yeah.
and they're both from the same night.
Yeah.
So anyway, full disclosure, it may get a little wild, but maybe not.
Well,
We'll
but it's
see.
hey, this episode is part 2 to the previous episode. Or is it part B to part A?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
we'll see.
We'll find out. We'll see what this episode holds because you're leading the way, man.
I am.
This is your pony show.
So this is kind of a follow-up or continuance of what we discussed in the last podcast in regards to social media and the hunting community / culture and the future of everything and what we're doing about it. And this episode, I think we're just going to kind of dive into more kind of what got this kicked off in our own minds and what I've been stewing on the last couple of weeks because, it's an interesting topic. It's a really interesting topic, and we're a bunch of nobodies right now. So who knows who's going to hear this other than our listeners? But I've got to get it off my chest because there's a lot of thoughts. Feelings.
Yeah, so
I felt something the other day.
Turn your volume way down.
You want me to turn my volume?
No, I was saying the listener.
He's
Yeah.
For you,
Here, I'll turn it down for them.
Your voice, yeah. There you go.
So you guys won't have to hear me.
Master volume. Oh my gosh.
So, but no. So
share with me what this was because I haven't heard this in depth.
Yeah, we haven't
yet.
really quite.
You've just
texted you about it.
Yeah, and yep.
So it started a couple weeks ago. I was actually listening to Kafaru Cast,
Okay.
which
awesome.
I love. I love
it.
as a podcast.
I'll listen to them
with Aaron
talk
Snyder.
about paint drying.
It's namely Aaron Snyder talking, and then Frank, like every once in a while, asks a question.
Yeah.
That's about right.
But they had a couple interesting episodes, back to back, interviewing the guys from this Instagram page, TSD, and then the next week it was the Instagram page, Make Hunting Great Again, which I had never heard of before.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have.
No, I had not heard of it. And then also, just for clarity, real quick,
All right.
is that one of those episodes missing from Apple Podcasts?
Yeah, apparently.
I didn't get to listen to the first one.
Apparently Apple has been really weird about it, and
Apparently
a bunch of people
yeah.
have been having issues with podcast episodes just going missing.
Yeah. They're getting canceled. Maybe. Just kidding.
Maybe. Yeah.
But Podbean, I guess they said all of it is up there.
So
Enough plugs.
listen to Podbean. We're on Podbean, thankfully, and every other platform apparently
Yeah.
that we know of so far. But anyhow, so these two podcast episodes, Aaron and Frank, interviewed these guys, and like I said, I had never heard of them, so I started checking them out, and I don't know how you would describe their pages. They're basically
Gosh.
they're pages that are meant to be provocative and poke fun at certain things and people in the hunting industry and culture, which, full disclosure, I don't necessarily have a problem with good, witty satire that pokes fun at various aspects or things we as people do as a whole. Like, there are some really good comedians out there in whatever genre you have an interest in that do that.
Yeah.
Really good at it. And, some satire, websites out there like Babylon Bee or The Onion, which I think do a great job at making fun of our stupid things.
Well, I think the main thing is, at least for me, when it's making a joke of something, but it's also legitimately thought provoking.
Yes.
Like it is like,
And it's witty.
or like
it's witty.
It's something that's weird. It sometimes brings light to a subject where you're like, oh, I could actually see them like saying something, whoever they're, imitating, whatever it is.
Yep.
Oh, I can actually see them going that extreme, and it's like, oh, and so it's like thought provoking. So there is like some value into it aside from the value of humor.
Yep. And so full disclosure, I love that. I love good humor, good witty humor that's articulate and funny and has some real pointed purpose to it. And so I started checking out these Instagram pages, TSD and Make Hunting Great Again, and hopefully this gets back to them, and we'll probably end up on their page.
Yeah, you can tag them, man.
Yeah,
just go ahead and tag
we'll
them.
tag them.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Well, I want to come to find. So I started just scrolling, especially through the TSD one, and dude, I got seriously depressed.
Really?
After like an hour.
I haven't scrolled through
Yeah,
their Instagram,
don't.
so
It was bad. Like it was.
Everyone you just said don't to, including myself, is definitely.
You guys all are. Yeah,
we're all
you
gonna
guys
go look
totally
for
are.
sure.
Just be forewarned, because so it's a satire page, and I just the best way I can describe it, and pardon the language if there's children around, but it's straight douchey and super crass. Is the best way I can describe it. And I was really like, they had some funny ones that made fun of some things that were funny, but most of them are just that it left me just going, ugh, like, I don't know how I feel about this. And it took me a while. Like, I really started like having the process, like, what was I feeling about this, and what did I not like about what I was reading? Because like I said, normally, like, I love good satire. I love things making fun of other things and things, the stupid things we as humans tend to do or say.
Yeah.
This just left me feeling gross. And so I think as I processed it, it was like, man, like this isn't building up at all. Like this just absolutely, it's just like to tear people and businesses and what other things, whatever it is, just down for the sake of tearing them down. And just, I don't know. It just really got me thinking. Like I said, I felt literally kind of depressed about social media and hunting and the hunting culture. And like, oh, if that's it, what are we doing? Like, this just sucks.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, it was one of those things that like hit me so hard that I was like, I don't even know if like long term if I would want to be on social media because of this crap. Like it was just like, ugh, this is gross. It took me a while figuring out why it was gross, and I think it came down to like, is what we're doing, even in satire, ultimately thought provoking and inspiring and helping provide a benefit to our life, or is it tearing down? Is it destructive? And is it just namely tearing down people? And I think that's what the big takeaway from reading through those pages was. This is all destructive. This is tearing down not just stupid things, but people themselves. And it's not helpful. It wasn't encouraging. It wasn't inspiring. I didn't leave that page going, oh, that was an interesting thought. I feel like, oh, I should really think about it. I was like, I left feeling like dirty and gross. And just the comments on there in the comments section, like, ugh.
Was it just all reinforcement?
Oh, it was just, it was negative reinforcement. You know, there's one from, it was quite a while ago, but it was kind of a back and forth with a bunch of people. I forget even what post it was about. I think it might have had to been with a post about, I think one of the like CEOs of Sitka or First Light with that made some video about being, some gun control video, which on a personal level, like, saw that video and like, I totally disagree. Like, I totally disagree that of the content and the argument behind the video. But then
From Sitka,
or that at the time, I don't know if he's still with Sitka. I don't think he is. I think it was a board member or higher up that's no longer with the company. But then one of the persons that commented was Tyler Sharp, who is the chief, I think he's the chief editor and founder or co-founder of The Modern Huntsman, which is a publication that I have a ton of respect. Like the work they do, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of going back and forth with people on just various aspects, and people were just ripping into him. And overall, it was a really nasty. It wasn't a good dialogue. It was just like a bashing session. That's all it was.
Well, how do you feel about throwing pearls before swine?
This was one of them. Like, it was just literally throwing, things that you value before a bunch of people that just wanted to trample on it.
Well,
and didn't want to hear what you had to say or listen to.
Well, I mean, and the thing is like there's just so little productive conversation that happens on social media when it comes to challenging ideas, because there's just so much stuff you can't pick up on anyway. And obviously from the get-go, it sounds like the idea of it is just, like you said, destructive.
Yeah.
It's not helpful.
So I think that whole experience was more of an extreme. Like, that was really looking at a couple pages that are very provocative. And so I think obviously the reactions that come out of a page like that are going to be really extreme. But just, it really got me thinking a lot about just the hunting culture and community and our presence on social media and what we're doing with that. And it's kind of been something I've wrestled with, that we've wrestled with for a while now. Just as someone that's relatively new into the hunting community and culture, this is something that I've just thought a lot about, because some of my first exposures that really kind of shaped what I wanted to help do was guys like Donnie Vincent. I mean, his YouTube video, if you haven't seen it, Who We Are, was just life-changing as far as like my take on hunting and kind of social media and what we're doing. And that was crazy.
Well, and I think for me, my unique, I guess, or different perspective, because I haven't seen so much that side of it, or I guess looked at that side of it too much. The thing that I find like the most
Donnie Vincent side, or the
TSD, the TSD type thing,
like
my experience where it's just like off-putting, you don't like it, makes you feel gross. The thing for me that triggers that in me is product placement insanity, where it's like, no, I'm serious. And I know,
we've talked a lot about
and
this.
I'm guilty of tagging companies and all that stuff and posts and stuff. But the idea of it is, I really believe in the product, but it's not. I'm not like covering up 3/4 of an animal to be like
all the products.
Yeah, all the products going. I couldn't have done it without blah blah blah.
We just saw a picture the other day, a few weeks ago. I think we were talking about like the guy had his like hanging tree stand covering half the deer,
if not more. But I guess like, so for me, it like this idea where it almost like it defiles it a little bit, or it downplays your.
It whores out the experience.
It does.
That's all. Let's call it what it is. It does. It's whoring out the experience.
Yeah. And so here's a funny story where I was like, okay, so the video of me like that I posted on YouTube when I got this buck here, the coffee buck.
Coffee buck 2019.
Well, my brother and I, it was my first time really videoing anything out there. My brother was around following with the camera a little bit, and so I was just trying out different things like interviews, that kind of weird, just stuff to toy around with.
Trying to be like the cool kids.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so, but I did this one part, and I watched it because, and I don't know what it was. Like I drug the deer up in front of the stand or whatever. Which is where I shot the deer. That was the idea of putting it there, to be like, it was right here. Like this is right where I shot it. For whatever reason, I put my bow down, and then like I start naming the products. And I was like, I watched the video and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? And I had to cut it out. And I was like, nope, we're not using that. Cause that is like, so it's like, that moment, I wasn't thinking about the products. That moment wasn't all those things. Yeah. Like I want to include those things because I think they work, and I want people to use what works, and I want to give some credit where credit is due and where I've put my money. Like I think about those things, but like it hoard out that whole experience. Yeah. Like when I watch it that way, I'm like, oh, that's so gross to me. Man. So like I've seen now like some really, really tasteful ways to include what you're doing.
Is that not though like almost like a subconscious effect though that the social media presence that we've been exposed to has had on us without even realizing till either we're thinking and doing whatever it is.
We've been
Been
absolutely enamored with product placement,
Yeah.
with blatant whatever. And as much as you hate those things, whatever it might be, there's definitely an impact.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Well, that's like even I remember my first year hunting,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean 4 years ago, I didn't grow up in the hunting community or culture. I grew around it,
Uh-huh.
grew up around it. I remember thinking like I had a doe come in, I had an opportunity to take her, and I didn't because one of the first thoughts I had was, well, I need to wait for that big buck.
Oh, are you kidding?
I'm like,
Your first
and I
year
realized that like, holy cow, like it's just like
Yeah.
that. It went from a subconscious to a conscious thought. I was just like, geez, Louise, like I haven't even been directly affected by this.
Yeah.
But I've been affected by this indirectly so much so that was my first thought was, I need to get a big buck. Otherwise, I couldn't post this on social media.
Dude, and
That's
here's
messed up.
and this is part of it though. I think too is there's this journey, and I think it's you as you start to go to those areas where you haven't been to yet, or you haven't had to construct a thought about what you think and believe around those times or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You're just gonna fill in whatever you know or heard. So like with this deer, like first time doing the video, first time doing all this stuff, and like what I ended up posting was stuff that I felt very vulnerable, where I was like just
man.
a mess, like falling apart in this shaky video of me just like losing my mind about what just happened, and just like this genuine reaction where I think I look like a goof, but I'm like, that's
Yeah,
what
it's
it was.
normal.
That's like the real thing, and
Yep.
that's what I want people to see,
Yep.
because that's the truth.
Yep.
But then when things calmed down and it was like on our way out, and I was like, oh yeah, let's get a few more things. That's when it was filled in by the subconscious, whatever.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, here's me with my da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, that's so, for me, like the thing I dislike
Yeah.
so much about the hunting industry that turns me off to it is this overemphasis on how crazy or how big of a deal this product has made,
Yeah.
or like it ends up being, it might be that it impacts 5 to 10%, which is a huge percentage.
Yeah.
Taking in everything from practice to
Yeah.
all the things that you have to do as scouting, all that stuff, which is a huge percentage, and then making it seem as though it was 90 or 95% of what made you successful.
Yeah.
I don't know what the biggest chunk of that determines your success, but I think it's more on the individual.
probably not the
it's probably
product.
more on the individual.
Because people
than the
were
product.
killing animals
Yes.
with,
Yes.
with, nothing more than a stick and some sinew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so-
And that's where like, and I think there is a really good way, in a way that is like when people naturally, organically, when they're filming, whatever it is,
Yeah.
like, hey, it's not even like, hey, this is how I utilize this product. It's just them using it how they would,
Yeah.
whether you're
Well,
watching or not.
I think a couple one good example of a group that does that is the hunting public.
Yeah, love
you
it.
know, and they'll give plugs when plugs are necessarily to, like, hey, here's, the game calls that we're using, and it's more than just a product, but like it's more the people also behind the product, and it's just a quick little plug.
Well, they're not stopping their hunt.
Yeah,
Right? To be
And
like,
and the stickers aren't plastered
this is-
all over.
Yeah.
Highlight. That's one of the things
yeah.
that pisses me
Yeah.
off the most.
Yeah.
Is when you see the like store tag on the buttstock of the rifle. It looks
Yes.
like they just took it out of the package that morning.
Uh-huh,
And it was just it's like, come on.
Yeah,
like,
nice, big, and
yeah,
obvious.
Yeah,
on the side.
obvious. And they have to name out every single brand that they're sponsored by.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think mark my words. I think one of the things that we're going to be battling with in the future
Okay.
is the fake,
Fake.
quote unquote, to use your terminology, vulnerability, or the fake, like, oh, this experience was so crazy, because we're starting to see that.
Yeah.
Now
Interesting.
I mean,
Okay.
I can't say personally, but I've heard enough people call out people that have been like, oh man, this hunt was just so hard and epic, and we really had to grind. And then other people expose them for being like, oh no, you were on a ranch, you were on a guided hunt.
Oh yeah.
And so
okay.
and we're already seeing that with like certain social media, influencers that are taking all these pictures.
Yes.
Actually, one of my coworkers told me about this chick who took all these crazy pictures and said she was traveling the world.
Yes, I
and
heard
and
this,
then
yeah.
came out a little bit later and being like, yeah, I was at IKEA. Like just to expose like this kind of stuff happens, that people are just faking
Yeah.
these experiences. And
Well-
we're starting to see that in the hunting culture and community. I think that's going to be our next battle, is having to deal with these fakes of like, oh man, this hunt was so hard and epic, and I really had to, dig deep. Bro, you were on a
almost like-
ranch.
yeah, so almost like, and that's the thing, is like if someone just owns that they're on a ranch, like,
Yeah.
that's much more palatable.
Yeah, no
like I
problem.
can deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're being real, for real,
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah,
and that's
like
what
you wanted to chase
do.
after a really big animal, no big deal.
Yeah, and you got
Just be honest about it.
yeah.
Because so I think we're gonna start seeing a switch from like, oh, it's all about the product to, oh, it's all about the experience. And I had this awesome, epic,
Existential,
experience.
Yeah,
You were at a ranch, bro,
yeah, yeah.
or a girl.
Right, right.
You know, those huntresses.
Yeah. Hey, Venator and Ventrix. Ventrix.
Ventrix.
Yeah, that's what the female version of Venator
Oh,
is.
Ventrix.
Yeah, it's a
I didn't
huntress.
realize that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
People talk.
So if
about,
you want to
like,
be a Ventrix, please apply today.
well, no, seriously, people actually
People talk about like, should we call it just a hunter or a huntress,
like a female hunter,
Yeah.
a huntress, and they're like, well, a hunter is a hunter, but actually Latin, right? That's what that Venator's from.
Did you look this up? Because I haven't.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, okay.
So
And
Venator
Ventrix?
is actually a male
Oh,
hunter.
it's a male pronoun.
Yeah, hopefully we haven't.
Oh
No,
man,
disparaged
we've just
people.
disparaged.
Oh, boy.
I totally apologize.
We're gonna do like
we need to
Venator
find a
slash
neutral.
Ventrix.
Yeah, we need to find a neutral. Pronoun for
Yeah.
this. Ugh,
Anyway, I don't
man.
know why I went down that bunny trail.
I
but-
deeply apologize. It's 2020, folks. We should not be discriminating like that. Ugh. We should probably just give this podcast up.
Yeah.
In the way.
Well, I guess we're canceled.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
But no, that's actually a good point what you're talking about too, because I know like there's also the idea of where there's like actually no productivity and it's all about the experience, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, let's not go too. It's like you've heard the
Yeah.
theory of like the pendulum,
Yeah.
and like with any topic,
Yeah, it
it's like it
swings.
swings one way and it goes way too far extreme, then it
Yeah.
swings back and gets normal in the middle, but then keeps going and it goes the other way.
Because obviously there's got to be a balance, especially, I mean, like anything, any industry revolves around a product.
Yeah,
Like, and it's not wrong to highlight or promote a product, because if it's a good product,
yeah,
like it should be promoted in a sense, like
Yeah.
versus like a really crappy product. Like,
Yeah, and maybe I'm ignorant,
know.
and maybe we're ignorant, but I also feel like
Good chance.
good product. Yeah, high probability.
Yeah.
I also feel like a good product sells itself quite a bit.
Yeah.
And by that I mean like word of mouth, and like those things are like the best way to hear and learn about products, is having people stirring enough
Well,
that they're sharing with others.
I mean, would it not come down to, is the reason that I'm sharing about this product due to the fact that it is good and that it does work? Or does it come down to, well, I'm being paid
right.
to talk about this.
Right.
And I don't necessarily, I could go, it could be good or bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that's one thing too, and we've
Like
said
Rage
it before.
Broadheads.
Yeah.
there it is.
I will totally drop.
just-
I'll
just
name
threw-
drop
threw
Rage
it out
till the
there.
day I die. Namely because they're like a mile away from us, and they're just underneath. Yeah, I have no problem.
can
I
feel
think they
you-
suck.
I can still feel you hold them back though.
But that might be my ignorance. Oh, I'm being.
Dude,
polite.
here's the thing. Like,
When you say like here, I have a box of broadheads sitting over here. Okay, I haven't done this yet, but what I'm going to do is actually I bought first of all I kind of inherited the idea of Rage, and just because I didn't
We
know
all
anything,
did.
we didn't know anything yet. It was the Rage.
Wah, wah, wah.
And part of the reason why I bought those was because I was like, oh well, it's going to be the normal stuff at first,
Yeah.
but then as I did research, I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm interested in a fixed blade, but okay, price point. Now I got to start to balance these things out. Looking at all this, and I ended up buying Iron Wells. Okay, see, I'm not getting paid to say this. The product is going to sell itself because I like it, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to talk about it because I truly care about it and enjoy it. But I'm just going to do a review because every shot from the Rage, I had bent blades, like bent
Yeah.
beyond use, and chipped like beyond repair.
Yeah.
every shot, whether it was the dirt, which there was a lot of dirt shots.
There's a lot of dirt.
So I have
A lot of dirt
six rage heads, 2 of which entered a deer, the same one, and got stuck. About
Rage in the cage.
7 rage stuck in the cage is what I like to call it, because it's. And
Anyhow.
there's people who've had great experiences with them, but just saying from my experience, this year I used Iron Wills. I used 3 of them. I've had 4 pass throughs, and like every single blade is totally fine. I'm going to touch them up after turkey season, because I hear having them a little bit dull for turkey season isn't a bad idea. But
You're going with the shotgun.
But I might. I don't know.
Are you lying
I'm
to me right
flip-flopping.
now?
I'm flip-flopping.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Commitment issues.
Yeah. Please. Please. But the idea of it is that I told you before I bought them, because you're like, dude, there's more economy.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's some you can get not at that price.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I go way too hard. So here I am.
Yeah, it's all or nothing with Ethan.
Yeah, it really is. And so I bought those, and I was like, hey, here's the deal. If I don't lose one and I can reuse it more than I think I had, what did I say? If I could shoot 3 and recover them,
Yep.
I'll be paying for the rages that I already shot.
Yo.
And so having shot as much as I have with them already,
Totally worth it.
Yeah, it was 4 pass throughs, and then I had at least 1 miss. And I've recovered all my arrows, and the broadheads are awesome, and I'm excited to use them again next year.
Yeah.
So, and 2 bunnies.
And 2 bunnies.
Pass through on the bunnies'
Oh,
faces.
that's amazing that you got to pass through the bunny.
Yeah.
Ooh.
500 grade arrow.
Right, 500 grain arrow out of a 70-pound bow. Amazing. But yeah, the whole point is like you want to talk about it because it's a good product,
yeah,
not
yeah.
because like you're
I'm
trying
not
to.
looking for anything in return.
Not
here.
yeah,
I'm just
because
saying,
either
I
you're
like
not
it.
getting paid for it or you're not
Yeah.
hoping to get paid
Yeah.
for talking about a product.
Yeah.
Just like I think of clothing.
Yeah.
Like good clothing will be talked about. You know, especially like in northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, cold weather. I mean, it gets cold up here. If I can find a product that keeps me warm,
And it has a very quiet zipper.
that too, you know, or quiet material.
Yeah.
Like I want to talk about it because it's going to function well versus like a really crappy product like that's not going to keep me warm. Like if I'm talking about overpriced. Like if I'm talking about a product to either gain notoriety, to gain attraction, or because I'm being paid to talk about it, even though the product sucks.
Yeah.
There might be. That's where, for me, that's where the issue.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I would say that's like the extreme, but I feel like the more common is this sharing about it because it works, but it's overemphasizing the impact it actually has.
Yeah.
And for me, that steals the value of what you're putting into what you're doing.
Yeah.
It steals the actual experience that you're having. Cause like when I go check a trail cam, it's like I'm walking out there. I placed it there. I did all this. Like I put my batteries in it, not from them, that weren't made by. I'm not going like, hey, I just really want to thank Energizer Plus for just hanging in there for 3+ months.
Maybe that's a market that we could start going after because
but
nobody's done it.
Nobody's talking about
I think
the
we're onto
batteries.
something.
No one's talking about the batteries.
Or the SD cards.
Yes.
I think we're onto something.
No, but honestly,
we're
like
getting our next
But think
sponsorship.
about it. Think about it. Like that to me is like you're not thanking those things. Like they didn't do anything. And so, I mean, they did do something, but you're not like going, oh, I'm acknowledging it because it really did help me. It's like your camera's worthless.
Thank you, Hanes Underwear, for keeping me dry.
Yeah, like your camera's worthless without the batteries. So why wouldn't you thank those and make sure that everyone knows about those if you truly cared about those types of things and thought like this is making all the difference.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, they're working as they should. If it's not like outstanding and doing this crazy performance, and it's just getting the job done. You might hear about it once in a while, but I'm not going to like just hound on the thing all the time. And that to me, I guess that's like my biggest beef with social media and hunting channels, all those things is like this overemphasizing of how much value and how much importance and how much this contributed to your success because you're stealing from yourself and in my opinion, you're lying to the people about what they need to be successful or feel successful. And really you could end up, I can't afford that camera, a cell camera. I can't afford this. I can't afford that. I'm not going to be able to be successful without those things because that's what they've told me and showed me.
Yeah.
Instead of like you said, we've been hunting animals for thousands of years.
Yeah. Without trail cams, without fancy bows, without scent lock.
And so this disingenuous presentation is what I absolutely irks me
Yeah.
the most when it comes
Yeah.
to social media and hunting. It's
Yeah.
the worst to me. So there you go. You didn't think it was coming, but it did.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. There's so much that really bothers me that I'd like to see changed, and I don't know what bothers me the most, but I know for me one of the big things is just the lack of story being told in the experience, and especially kind of going back to, like I said, one of my first kind of like whoa moments was that whole idea of like, oh, unless I shoot a big buck, I can't post that to social media and feel proud.
Interesting.
And just like that, and I think that culture or that mindset has really been challenged and starting to be changed. Like, and that's one thing I've actually really appreciated this last year about the trad community.
Yeah.
I mean, it has its own faults.
Yeah, it does. Just kidding.
Especially the older trad guys can be a little persnickety.
a little rigid.
Yeah,
Rigid.
but overall, one of the things that's been really cool was like someone shoots a doe, like,
Yeah.
oh, it's your first trad kill with a doe. Everyone's like, that's awesome,
That's
like
it.
legitimate,
Yeah.
genuine, like that is awesome. Versus like I just didn't see that
Yeah.
in the rest of the hunting culture and community,
Yeah.
or especially the archery, like the compound hunting culture. Like it's filled with a lot of bros. It's a lot of bros. And
So true.
it is so true.
of
Like,
bros.
like it really is.
A lot
like,
of bros and a lot of bro science.
yeah, a lot of bro signs, jacked up trucks, flat brim hats, and not that there's anything wrong with flat brim hats because I've got a couple myself. But just the attitude, like the other day, I lost it when I was on one of the Facebook sites. Somebody started talking about just looking for a different release because he's starting to deal with some target panic and, trying to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah,
And
I remember
some
this.
just straight up jackwagon hops on and is like, I don't get what's up with all this target panic. Maybe archery hunting's not for you. Like, just, and the guy's response was great. He was just like, well, like he talked about his issues and he's like, maybe target panic's a real thing for me. We can't all be like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
But because like, it's like, that's absurd. Like Levi Morgan's talked about target panic,
Yeah.
and Levi Morgan's like the GOAT
Yeah.
of, competition archery.
Yeah.
And the dude's amazing. And
Yeah.
he's dealt with it. You're going to tell Levi Morgan that, oh, maybe archery hunting's not for you.
Yeah.
Like, what a jackwagon. But it was just that kind of reaction and people agreeing with him, like that just sets me off because like that's not cool. Like there's a guy talking about like, oh hey, I have this legitimate problem, I'm trying to figure it out, and your first response is, well, oh, you're not perfect, maybe you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Like
But here's the thing, though. Here's what
I don't even know where I was going with
it's
that.
okay because I got somewhere to go with it.
All right.
Here's the thing, though. There's something we work with at work here. It's called event plus reaction equals outcome. And so part of that is something happens. So this guy posts something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's really easy for all of us to identify what we don't like, whether you're on his
Yeah.
side or someone else's side.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The point is that you identify something, right? And
Yeah.
something happens. There's the event. And the idea of your reaction is going to determine the outcome. And so if you just go to his level, right, which I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting you did or whatever, but if you just go to his level or just make him a poster child of who we hate and what we hate,
Yeah.
to me, that's not a whole lot better
Exactly.
than him posting that.
Yep.
And so event plus reaction equals outcome. And so if we're actually able to look at that and go like, okay, is there a way, like ask the question, is there a way to be able to communicate to these people? Is there a way to help educate these people?
Yeah.
And maybe they're not open to it. They're for sure not going to be open to it on a public forum with a bunch of people waiting to see what his response is
Yeah.
and how he stands his ground because we're way too into that. And so I don't know what the answer is,
Yeah.
but I know that if we react the way
Yeah,
they're
they're
reacting to that
reacting.
guy,
Yeah.
it's like, well, we're just going to keep escalating this and escalating
Yeah.
it instead of someone's going to have to be the bigger person
Yeah.
and be like, okay, yep, I really disagree with what you're saying and how you're approaching that. But there's got to be another step that starts to change something. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's just going to keep butting heads. And
Well, I
that's
think
it.
I think it's kind of, for me, one of the things I've learned is it comes down to, do you know what you're for? Because if you know what you're for and you're articulating what you are for, you're able to build and create something out of that versus if you only know what you're against, you're always going to be reactionary. You're always going to have to attack this idea that you're against. You're never ever cultivating or creating something that you're for. You're never trying to build. You're always trying to tear down.
Yeah.
And so, like in this case, like I think tonight's rant
Yeah.
is ultimately, I want to articulate what I'm against.
Yeah.
But I'm going to articulate what I'm against because it goes against what I'm for. Ooh, sorry, Coffee Buck.
Yeah, it's okay.
What I'm for, which is I am for the hunting culture and community to have better social media engagement and post. That I think comes down to me a couple things. One, is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it encouraging? Is it building up? Is it helping create and cultivate life? Because that was one of the things I took away after my processing of looking through pages like TSD, Make Hunting Great Again. It was like while I'm all for good satire, those pages didn't leave anything built up.
Yeah.
Didn't leave anything encouraged. It didn't leave any good thought-provoking stuff. It didn't help inspire. I know a lot of people right now are starting to really hate on Mountain Ops. And you might not have to like everything Mountain Ops does or says or posts, but you can't tell me that ultimately a company like Mountain Ops isn't doing a lot of really good for not just the hunting community, but for disenfortunate people. They've provided thousands upon thousands of meals because they're a company that knows what they're for, not just what they're against.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to be, here at Venator. And just as an individual, wanting to know what I'm for, wanting to be a place, a resource, a person that can help create something that inspires, encourages, builds up, edifies, brings life, and draws people in rather than just pushes people out.
Yeah. Well, and I think one really helpful way, I'm going to move this off the screen. We're okay.
Oh boy.
There we go.
There we go.
I think one really useful tool, and this part of this is, we can identify the problem, kind of like we're talking about. It's pretty easy to see what you don't like because you're just going off a lot of times a gut reaction,
and maybe it is well thought out and you know what you're for, right? But there's a time when you don't know what you're for and you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I know for me at least, there's had to be really good questions posed by other people.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been because someone hit me over the head with a good idea. It's been thoughtful questions that caused me to actually ask myself questions about, consider basically what they're saying. And I just think a really good approach to helping someone change their mind or at least they might know what they're against, but not know why they're against it. Right.
Yep.
And I've been guilty of that. And so having good questions that you can just pose to them, open-ended, not like a yes or no, just open-ended questions that give them an opportunity to articulate what they're actually against. And obviously not everybody's going to be open to answering the questions, but definitely a statement generally is not going to solve much of a problem.
Are you telling me that or asking me that?
There are no absolutes. And I'm absolutely sure of that statement.
Ooh, that's
no,
deep.
I'm just kidding. There definitely are absolutes. We're about to change this into a different podcast.
Oh boy.
But no, I just think that questions are super, super valuable.
Yeah.
And it puts the ball in other people's court.
Yeah.
And it's not, I have to come up with a defense against this person. It's, I have to think about what my defense is or what my actual, the root of this is.
Well, I think the questions too are super helpful. Because how many times, we deal with it just within our friendship. We deal with it all the time within our marriage. What the other person is saying isn't necessarily what they're trying to communicate.
Right.
And there's either a breakdown in what they're saying or what we're hearing.
Yep.
And questions really allow for clarification a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so I think it's super helpful in that sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, one thing that is really, really valuable with questions, I don't know if you've ever heard the statement, which is the ironic part of this.
That's ironic.
Yeah, it is ironic. The statement that there are no magic statements, there are only magic questions. Big part of that, what's behind that is
when you present a new idea, whether it's a long first stage or a short first stage, the first idea of like when I present something new to you, the first stage of that is rejection, and someone has to work through that. And it's my idea, and I'm presenting it to you, so it's mine, and you have to say what you're choosing whether you agree with me or not. When you're able to ask really good questions, and someone's able to take their own personal responsibility or their own ownership over an idea and go, oh, I thought of this on my own, they're gonna have way more invested in it than if you tell them how they should think or what's important about this or that. And just walking through that with good questions and guiding with good questions, guiding their thought process and giving them not critiques, but questions that would challenge maybe which way they're going. And I just think that there's an opportunity for the person who's trying to think through this stuff where they can really take it and make it their own.
Yeah.
Through their own, their own avenue, and really feel like, okay, I own this idea now, and I've, kind of come up with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think that, again, it's easy to identify what we don't like. It's hard. It's so hard to fight it in a way that is actually constructive, really making a difference, and really building something in the end, right? Instead of tearing it down.
Well, that's like, I think, kind of back to one experience we had this last season was after you had posted the video about that doe that took, miles to find and get and recover. And we had got some Facebook message from some random guy who watched the video, I'm assuming, and was like, oh, that was a poor time to take the shot. It was too far away. This leaves a bad image on the community.
Quartering and all that.
Yeah, and it's tough to take. I mean, I saw that and I wanted I wanted to jump to your defense, and just tear this guy.
But here,
that's again reacting versus
a thoughtful response.
Yeah, thoughtful response.
Because
that is loaded with questions and well, why do you think that was bad, or why do you think and
and here's the thing too, like with that message in particular.
For me, what he said is like, oh, it was too dark to be taking that photo or that shot. The deer was quartering to, and I would never blah blah blah. It makes it look bad, and it's just not a wise thing. And when he said all that, I mean, like, your initial thing is like defense, like, well, here's the circumstance, and like just laying out all these defenses. And I was like, okay, well, that's not. Like, who cares if this guy like believes even if that's true or not?
Yeah.
And at least I felt like all I did was acknowledge like the idea of like, yeah, it wasn't perfect. Like, I made mistakes, and I'm definitely going to learn from it. And I have, because we've talked about it. Yeah, and it's hunting.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that I felt remorse and regret and relief when it was all over. But to me, like, that when someone responds to someone who's looking to start a fight or whatever, and you respond like calm and peacefully or whatever with it, the opportunity, whether they capitalize to talk more with you or not, I don't know, but it leaves a channel open that usually just gets shut down and like, oh, dude, screw you, or never answer to them or whatever it is. It's like, no, I would like to respond. There's some criticism. I wouldn't waste my time with some criticism.
There's some criticism that you just want to get snarky with.
You're just trolling.
Yeah.
But like the guy, I felt like he was really believed what he's saying. And if he believes what he's saying, then I'll take ownership of where I was at with it. I'm not going to pretend it's something it wasn't. But also, if you're really interested in a conversation, then you'll continue it after I let you know, like, yep, there's some of this, and go and learn from it. And he goes, well, what are you going to learn from it? Well, then now we got a conversation, right? And then someone is like, okay, well, I'm glad to see you're actually open to learning something, and you're not just like, oh, this is just the way it goes.
Yeah. Well, I think kind of bringing it around to that whole idea of asking questions, not just asking questions to others, but of ourselves, especially as a community as a whole, as we start like kind of referencing back to our previous episode in talking with Thomas, about social media and hunting. Like, we really need to start asking ourselves the critical questions. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why do we post what we post? Like, what's the why behind the what? Like, we need to be able to answer that. Like, even we talked a little bit about trophy shot kills. Like, oh, I just killed this animal. Well, how and why are we posting what we're posting?
Well, and this is what
it goes beyond ourselves, especially to an outside community that doesn't necessarily understand or get what we're doing.
Well, and this is what I struggle with that particular thing, and I wrestle with it quite a bit. And my initial gut reaction is like, well, I'm not going to stop doing that. That's my gut.
Yeah.
But the thing that I wrestle with is like, well, here's like, I don't know how to articulate this, but it's something that I hadn't considered when they'd posted the YouTube video kind of about it. Like, I was posting I knew why I was doing it. And sometimes my reasons aren't good enough. And this is where I don't know if this is true or not for this particular subject.
Yeah.
But my reasons for my person, like for myself, are not good enough or not, they don't weigh enough against the potential bad that could be taken from it.
Yeah.
Because there's room for assumptions, there's all those things. And so trying to determine the risk factor, right, of like, hey, there's a lot of people that are totally with this and are excited and they want to celebrate with you and all this stuff and it feels good and all that and you want to share it and you know how much work you put into it and you know the heart of it. And then someone who has nothing to do with it sees it and you have no idea what their reaction is to it. And so that to me is something I hadn't really considered, where I was like, okay, because I felt totally pure in my intentions.
Yeah.
But I don't know yet. I haven't determined where I'm at on this. As of right now, I'm not changing what I'm posting as far as like trophy shots. I try to keep it tasteful anyway.
See, I don't have that problem.
Yeah. You're like, I'm actually a slayer. I just never post anything, guys.
I kill a lot.
Yeah.
Kill a lot of trees.
So, because my intent is like, I'm really proud of this. I'm really thankful for the animal. I'm really thankful for the meat, and I show things with like my family interacting with everything, whether it's processing, all this stuff, all good things in my mind. But I hadn't really slowed down enough or considered enough the impact it might have on people who are potential or non-hunters. Right. And so that's kind of where I'm at with it, where it's like, I feel like my stuff is good enough, but
I think that goes very well into the point of like them posing that question now has you thinking about it rather than them coming across and being like, oh, well, you should or shouldn't do this.
Yes.
Your first reaction would be like, well, screw you. I'm going to do what I'm going to do versus like, well, why do we do what we do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, now I got to think about it.
Okay. So then, and then you figured out why. Okay. What's the impact beyond what you're probably naturally thinking, right? What's the impact of what you're doing outside of that? And it's like, okay, now there's more to think about that you hadn't considered yet. And that, and like you're saying, like, that's what I truly appreciated about, that YouTube video they had put out was like, Identical Draw I'm talking about. I was like, I just hadn't thought about it in that light or given it enough credence or whatever to really consider like the impact that it might make on someone who may or may not become a hunter.
Yeah, and that's where definitely
because we are the minority.
We are
large number.
So man, well, I think this is a good starting point.
Yeah, dude.
Well, or follow up to a starting point. I think we'll probably be talking a lot about this.
Yeah.
I'll probably find something else that annoys me. And
I
have to work through that and the feelings of everything. So,
yeah, dude. All right, man.
Well, this is fun.
Yeah. Cool.
Man, so where can people find us if they haven't figured out where to find us by now?
Yeah, if you guys haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
Instagram, and then on Instagram in our link to our bio, there's going to be a link tree, which pretty much can lead you anywhere you want to go. Minotaur Chronicles
Except
podcast.
for the dark web. We're not on the dark web yet.
Dark web
yet.
But yeah,
who knows? Maybe
Facebook,
we will.
Instagram, and then pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. So
awesome.
And YouTube, of course.
Of course, YouTube. We watch our beautiful faces.
Oof.
Yeah. Or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool, guys. Thanks for listening.
Peace out.
Peace out.